And Nancy, you've got me, right?
Yes.
Got it. Good.
Okay, and Christine is trying to find the link, so hopefully she'll join us soon. So I'm hoping each of you has a copy of the agenda in front of you so you can see my pretty face instead of my having to display the agenda. So the first topic is public input, and I don't see any members of the public.
I didn't get an
I see one person.
Oh, yes.
Thompson, are they supposed to be a panelist?
Jim, is that you and Susan? Yeah, that's Jim Carter. They couldn't find the email, so I sent them mine, and that's why they're coming in as me.
It gets buried.
So it's not Tanner Thompson. They have their hands raised as well. Looks like you do have a member of the public here.
Okay. I'm not seeing a member of the public.
Nancy, I think he's asking if Tanner should be a panelist.
Pardon?
I think he's asking you if Tanner Thompson should be a panelist.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you for adding me as a panelist. I must have, I couldn't, the link wasn't working, so I just entered the info into Zoom manually, and it must not have picked up on the part of the link that
Okie doke.
gave me panelist permissions.
Alrighty. So I think we do not have any members of the public here tonight. So we can move on to the approval of the June 1st minutes, which were included with the agenda. Could I have a motion to accept them?
Motion.
I move to accept.
Deborah, was that you?
Yep.
Okay, Barbara, would you like to second?
Sure.
Since Deborah was a little quicker than you.
We're all second and Barbara can approve.
Oh, please.
Let's not fight. Anyhow, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Alrighty. Thank you. The next item is the chair's report. And as I think you all know, we're appointed for 3-year terms. And on June 30th, Judd's and Collins' terms expired. And they have both thankfully agreed to sign up for another 3 years.
Thank you.
And so I recommended to the mayor that he reappoint them, and I believe will be on the Common Council agenda, which would be a week from tomorrow, Tuesday evening. And as you know, I think Brian has resigned from the commission because his life has gotten a little out of hand. And I've asked the mayor to nominate Tanner Thompson, since he's been sort of an honorary member for at least a year, probably closer to 2. And the mayor has agreed to do that, and that should also be on the Common Council agenda a week from tomorrow. So Tanner will be hopefully become an official member. It's also been suggested that perhaps we should have a vice chair for the commission, so that if there are times when I can't chair the meeting, we would have somebody designated to chair the meeting, as well as somebody that would be a little bit more aware of the things that I do in addition to chairing the meeting. So if for whatever reason I was not able to do some of them, there would be somebody that could step in who sort of knew the ropes, so to speak. And I have contacted Darren Callahan in the legal department to find out if that would require an ordinance change. And I have not yet heard back from him. But if it does require an ordinance change, we'll go to the ordinance committee, and I would hope would not be a long discussion. But before I do that, I thought I would run it by the members of the commission and see if you all think that that's probably a good idea. Don't
Well,
all?
first of all, I think you're perfect, Nancy, so I don't know why you would need a co, but
Well-
absolutely.
Barbara, once again, Deborah beat you. You were going to say something?
Just, I didn't hear it as co-chair, but something else. Deputy chair or how did you say it?
Vice
chair.
chair,
Yeah,
I think is the term that the city generally uses.
great.
Alrighty, well, I will go ahead and hopefully we will have heard from Darren by next month and I can report back to you the progress on that. Next thing is Judd and I met with Catherine, Mike, and Greg to see if we could spend some of the money in our expense budget before the end of June, because although capital money carries over from year to year, the expense money does not. And they were very helpful, not only in coming up with some ideas, but in also researching the ideas and getting them ordered. So we are ordering some of the pedestrian signs that sit in the crosswalks that we had applied for a grant to fund and did not get the grant. We also are ordering some additional bike racks to put around the city. And we're also ordering or I guess have ordered actually, a bike repair stand. There is one at Southport Beach if any of you have been by there, but it's basically a bike stand for the public. It has some tools and a bike pump, and they're all attached so that they shouldn't walk away.
Where will it go?
Haven't decided that yet. I'm thinking that, maybe it would make some sense to put it at Calf Pasture Beach, maybe somewhere near the NRVT trailhead. Jim, you should start smiling now. Thank you. But once we get it, we can have a discussion as to where to put it. And obviously, we will also work with the city to do some publicity around it as well.
Can I point one thing out, Nancy?
Sure.
I think this is a great example of a situation where it would be great to have better data about the biking and walking that is already taking place in the city. If we knew that there was one intersection where more cyclists pass through than any other intersection, it seems like it would be a slam dunk to put it there. Maybe
Okay.
that is Calf Pasture Beach, but my point is right now we have no way of knowing, and if we did, I think we could make better decisions.
You
Okay.
talking about traffic counter?
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
That only
It's-
counts bicycle traffic?
Sorry, I was trying to help Judd get in. I kind of missed some of that discussion because my headphones were off.
Yeah, I don't have a particular proposal about how to get that data, but I am always trying to keep my ears open for ways that we might get that data.
Yeah, I would think Straffolino Bridge too might be another option, because that's probably got a lot of people heading out of Sono and into Sono. Crossing the river would be a good spot to collect data. So between there and
Yeah, but I'm not sure where we would put it, because I don't think we could put it on a sidewalk, maybe near the entrance to Vets Park. Catherine, does anybody on you or anybody on your team have an idea?
Well, as far as where to put it, we only have, I think it's two, we might have ordered more. We have very limited number of traffic counters right now in the city. And no, they don't just count how many bicyclists there are activity, Nancy, but yeah, I think your point, Tanner, about the data is important. It's a good one. And we could get data online from different sources. Let us think about that as far as doing a traffic count just for the placement of the bicycle equipment that you're talking about. So we can get back to you on that.
Great. Yeah, I didn't mean to move to make any decision right now, just to point out the need for data in general. As far as the placement of the what exactly did you call it? A tool bench or a repair station?
Right.
Repair stand.
Yeah, a repair stand. You mentioned the bridge and that a lot of cyclists might go over the bridge. There's a little pocket park just on the northwest side of the bridge. It's labeled as North Water Street Park, right by the parking lot for the Sheffield Island Ferry. So that's another potential. But I think maybe another way to think about it might be to think about what bike racks exist and are used. That might be a little easier to collect data on, just maybe anecdotal data, if nothing else. You know, if there's a bike rack where people
Yeah,
reliably
then
park their bikes.
it would be the South Norwalk train station based on
Oh yeah, you're
my
probably
survey of bike racks. And I
Yeah,
don't
so
know
maybe
that it would be heavily used there because I think people are normally in a bit of a hurry. But it's something to think about, and we'll certainly bring it up at a later meeting.
Okay. That makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, but your suggestions are well taken. Next item is Glover Avenue, which we have been told will eventually have a bike rack on it. I mean, a bike lane on it. The middle part of Glover Avenue was repaved a couple of weeks ago. The part that's in front of the tower's office building. And I am very pleased to announce that after they repaved it, they did put a bike lane on one side and Sharrows on the other. So we're incrementally moving forward.
Nancy, what is happening with the infamous, I don't know what you even call it, but at motor vehicle? It's not even, it's not an anything. Are they doing
The bus
any-
shelter?
The non-crosswalk?
The non-crosswalk and the stand that they have there are just pathetic.
Yeah, what for those of you that are a little newer to the commission, what Deborah is talking about is where Gristmill Avenue intersects Main Avenue at DMV. There are walk lights, but no crosswalks. And the walk lights go from a street with no sidewalks to another street with no sidewalks. So it sort of indicates that as a pedestrian, that would be a cool place to go, but it really isn't. And then on Main Avenue, just a little south of that intersection, is a bus stop with no sidewalk, no bus shelter. And then if you go a little further up the road to the intersection with Glover, again, there are walk lights with no crosswalks. However, there is a sidewalk on one side, although there's no sidewalk on the other. And it's probably 2 years ago now, we partnered with the Arts Council and sponsored a walk where we invited the public and a whole bunch of local politicians. And then we did a second walk for employees of the city as well as the state to show them how awful this area was. And they all agreed it was awful. And I do know that one of the guys from the state did try to start a project to improve all of that, but he was unable to get it funded. So other than everybody agreeing it's awful, I'm not really sure where it is.
And as an aside, it's not only awful, but a lot of people use the bus to get to work. I know that's subject for a lot of hilarity that people at motor vehicle have to use the bus, but many of them do.
Yeah, we had invited the head of the Norwalk Transit District to, I believe, our March meeting, or no, our April meeting, and she's been a little distracted because of COVID, but she will be joining us at some point in the future, and I think we can find out what her plans for that bus stop are.
Nancy, I actually have an update for you. I don't know if you want me to say it now or wait till my report.
Whichever you prefer.
Well, since we're talking about it now, so we reached out to Norwalk Transit District and asked, specifically about that specific bus stop and the other proposed locations around the city. Regarding that one stop on Main Avenue, 527 Main Avenue, right next to Sunoco Station, the property is privately owned where that bus stop is. So it's not, be a little difficult to get in there and, just do it because it's not on city or state land. Also, the shelter obviously would require sidewalks, relocation of utilities, ramping, and crosswalks, among others. And also due to the height road volumes on Main Avenue. It would a recommended pull and recess bus stop is also would be needed as well for that shelter. So it wouldn't just be put a shelter there and leave it as is. So with the high ridership, it would be very cost prohibitive, to make that into, a more complete intersection with a more complete bus stop. And that's
So Greg, just to be clear, given that it is private property, every time a bus stops there, it's trespassing?
I'm just listen. This is going off of what the transit district has told us, and also from their vendor as well, who installs the shelters as well. This is the answer they gave to us. So we reached out to them, and I'm just,
I'm not attacking you at all. I'm just trying to understand. If it is private property, that means it's trespassing every time the bus stops.
Let's not go down that road. I am guessing, and I don't know, that if it is private property, they probably have some kind of agreement to be able to have the bus stop there and have a shelter, whatever's there right now. So I wouldn't say that it's trespassing, because they do have it's part of their bus stop route.
Yeah, they may have.
I would recommend for any of you who haven't been there to watch the people trying to cross the road safely. It's really pretty amazing. And I'll just take it offline at that. It's quite extraordinary. Yeah. And I'm assuming that their agreements also have to do with liability, because somebody's going to get hit and there's going to be a horrible accident there. So anyway,
okay, I think we're getting a little off topic here.
Nancy, could I interrupt and go back to Glover? I mean, if we've concluded with this topic.
Sure.
So I have observed the small section that's been repaved and was thrilled to see the bike lane on one side. I guess I was quite disappointed to not see a bike lane on the other side, but a Sharrow. I realize that spots in the midst where there's 3 lanes because there's a left turn lane and there's limited room and all the usual excuses. But just under the headline of Glover was I perceive to be one of the ultimate complete streets. And I have such high hopes for it with all the redevelopment that's going on there and with the new train station and all that sort of stuff. And I perceived as the definition of complete street as having bike lanes on both sides. So I was disappointed that the first bit of paint that we put down on our new gold standard complete street didn't have bike lanes on both sides. So I just kind of, I know it's always hard to go back and redo, and I don't know if it's possible to redo or any of that kind of stuff there. I just am concerned that that somehow is setting a disappointing precedent to get off on our complete street initiative there.
Yeah, the city has always said all along that it's not wide enough there to have bike lanes on both sides because of the 3rd lane for the left turn into the garage.
So I hear that, I understood that, I knew that that was going to be the response, but we have a lot of additional street to do there, and I want to hold us to a higher standard, if you will. And I guess I would have said if we came up 5 feet short on the width of the street, why didn't we make it 5 feet wider? But we won't get off on that topic. The principle is that we haven't, that we've already blinked when it comes to complete streets on what was to be the ultimate complete street project. So let's take that as a cautionary tale.
Yeah, I will confirm what the plans for the rest of that street are. But it's complicated because you have the curb apartments at the north end, and then you have the moving of the train station sort of in the middle. And then when you come past the going south, the part they just repaved, to widen that part to be wide enough for bike lanes requires expanding the bridge over the Norwalk River, which I believe is planned, but probably not in my lifetime.
Well, once you make the left turn, I realize life gets different and maybe there's a whole new scheme that happens that way. But as we're going true, I guess, north and south on Glover, it's just it's a blank slate. It's a new palette. And unlike any other place in Norwalk where we have all the realities of what is infrastructure that's already built and we're always limited, here we have the opportunity to do it right from the start. And I'm just encouraging us to be a real bulldog on making sure it is done right.
Okay, well, yeah, Judd.
Who designs that street? I mean, is the developer designing it with this?
That was the city.
The city. Okay.
Yep.
Mike Yosak, do you have any thoughts on this?
I wasn't involved in that. That's probably a P&Z issue. And you know, they are building more apartments up there, so there may be an opportunity and that road may be changing. So.
Well, and also the state from time to time has talked about changing the interchange between Glover and the Route 7 connector, so you don't have to go on to Grist Mill. But I haven't seen anything about that recently either.
Yeah. Seems like that would be years away.
Yeah, but in line with getting in on the ground floor, so to speak, when things are in the planning stage. Last month we had the presentation by Steve about the East Norwalk transit-oriented district, and I don't know if any of you went to either of the public hearings. I unfortunately was not able to attend either one. But if you have not already read the plan, it's available on Norwalk tomorrow. And I would urge you to read through at least the parts that relate to walking and bicycling, of which there are quite a number, and send any comments you have into Steve, because that is a chance for us to get in and get our input into the plan before it gets concretized. All righty, well, that's all I have for my report. For the standing reports, Teresa has
a follow-up question on that last statement.
Pardon?
If we read the full plan, is there a vehicle for us to submit feedback that will be taken more seriously than just public feedback?
Well, I think you'll find Steve to be very responsive.
Yeah. Can we just reach out to him directly via email?
Pardon?
Can we reach out to him via email?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Okay.
But you won't get a response from him because he's on vacation this week.
Oh, fair enough. I don't even know if I'll get around to emailing him this week, but.
Okay. Yeah, because I sent him a bunch of comments and I did get an email back from him.
Great. I will do that before the next meeting. You can
Okay,
put that down.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Anyway, as I was starting to say, Teresa is again substituting this month for Deanna, and she has another commitment. So want to change the order of the standing reports and have the walking update first. Teresa?
Hi, everybody. So my report out will be short. I don't have a lot to report on. Julia Green, our health education associate, is working on additional translations of the existing Norwalker maps. She's also created some outreach materials around how to exercise safely during COVID to answer people's questions about, exactly what kinds of precautions you need to take outside when you're going for a walk or any kind of outdoor activity. So we're in the process of reviewing that and trying to get it translated, and that should be online. But another thing that
when
we're,
that's ready for public consumption, could you shoot a copy over to Deborah so she could put it on our Facebook page?
absolutely, definitely. And then the only other thing, we have our block grant from the state that partially supports some of the work that Norwalker does, and that we're in the last quarter of that grant, and so we'll be looking at how to revise and expand that work in the next fiscal year. And so we're in the process of taking a look at what we were able to accomplish despite the pandemic, and how we can do some more work on that moving forward. But that's about all we have here.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Teresa. Barbara?
I just wanted, before Teresa goes, I want to thank you publicly for doing an inventory of the Bike Walk Commission belongings that are at the health department. Really appreciated your time and effort there.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
I also wanted to thank you publicly for the website revisions that we've recently made.
Sure, those are easy. I shouldn't say that. It was very taxing. Please don't give me anything more extensive to do than that. No.
I won't. Thank you
No,
very
really,
much.
if at any point my turnaround time is a lot longer than usual, but if there is a point where you want to look at the website more comprehensively, and I'm happy to make those changes, just let me know.
Thank you very much.
What works.
All righty, thanks. Judd, the bike plan committee?
Greg, I think, has a presentation to show us on that. So I'm going to let you take over, Greg.
You want me to do it now? Okay.
Well, actually, we had that under new business, I think. No, we're going to have that under your report. But if you want to do it now, that would be fine.
That's fine.
Nancy, do you want that shared, a share screen, or Greg, do you have the ability to share the PowerPoint?
Greg, can you share your screen? If not, I can share it online.
Yeah, I don't have it on my computer here. I just have a paper copy here.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, I just thought maybe it would be easier for people to look at it on the screen.
Yep.
Hang on.
Okay.
Share screen. There we go. Okay.
Cool.
Greg, just tell me when to go to the next slide, okay?
Okay. All right. So as we're looking at this, obviously Judd and Colin and Nancy gave us your proposed for the bike plan coming up. So this is how we're going to evaluate our proposed bike facilities going forward from here on out. So Nancy, go to the next slide. So when we look at planning evaluations for selected roadways, we want to be in conjunction. We've already begun talking, had several meetings with DPW and in conjunction with their paving schedule. They have altered a few things. I know you guys have went through one that was found online, but they have done some modifications to their paving plan, especially this year and the years moving forward. So, and they're constantly updating it, not to compare to the one online, but it's a little different now. So going forward, all these, we're going to look at their paving schedule before we do any bike facilities, and also coordinate with other citywide and state projects. Obviously, there's a lot of major projects that are coming up, in the South Norwalk area and East Norwalk as well on East Avenue. So we have to be cognizant of those as well, so we don't have to rip up anything that we put on. Roadway schedule paved all the roads will be evaluated for potential bike facilities. We'll look at all four types of bike facilities, obviously shared lanes, conventional, buffered, and a separated bike lane as well. We want to obviously pick the design that will reduce the most conflict points for bicyclists. Potential roadways based on a bike network, just not as isolated projects. That's a major thing as well. Connect origins and destinations, community for public transit and zero car household areas. And also we'll need to look at how the bike facility will affect vehicle volumes and traffic flow in each roadway, and also heavy duty traffic as well. We have to look at what the heavy, truck traffic is on all these roadways. There you go, next one, Nancy. just as an example, this is from the census tract, all the census tracts around Norwalk, and these are all zero-car households based on 5-year estimates from the Census Bureau. Obviously, you look at the 2017 versus 2018. So we'll look at these and see where those areas are that obviously where public transportation is higher and zero-car households are, higher. So that's where we can look at more higher, need for bike facilities and roadways for make connections to destinations from their household. So we can look at that as well. And you kind of see the change. You can kind of see the changes from one year to the next. And 2018 is the last update that that's been made available on the Census Tract website or on the Census Bureau website. So this is something that one of the criteria that we're going to be looking at for needed bike facilities on these roadways. You can go to the next one, Nancy. Thank you. Just to show, obviously I'm sure everybody knows, but just to kind of show the 4 different bike facilities we'll look at between the Sharrows, shared lanes, conventional, buffered, and separated. Just to kind of show how much room is needed. Obviously, you just brought up Glover Ave and, how there wasn't a lot of room, maybe on both sides of the road for bike lanes. So that's a major consideration, especially when you're not extending pavement or you're not extending the curb at all, how much room is available for bike facilities. So, just to show you how much room is actually needed and how much change you'll have to go through on the roadway if there's parking, if there's 2 lanes, a turn lane. So just to kind of get a sense, and we'll look at all these for each individual roadway and see if they meet that criteria. Next one, Nancy. Thank you. And just to show, for example, for the shared lane roadways, obviously we'd like to stay in that 25-mile-per-hour speed limit road. And this is all guidance coming from, obviously, FHWA, state of Connecticut guidelines, NACTO, that for recommended roadways that qualify for Sharrows. Maximum roadway ADT of about 3,000 in each travel lane direction. All those counts will be taken from the DOT traffic monitoring section. Obviously, 4 feet minimum from the curb so that the Sharrow is located, in close to the center portion of the roadway so that cars can see the bicyclist, and 12 feet if it's on-street parking, and obviously signage as well will be needed. And you see from the example in the picture, the Sharrow placement here, where there's no parking on one side and there's parking on the other, and you see the Sharrow symbol placed right in the middle of the roadway so the cyclist can be seen. So that's what obviously we're going for here for shared roadways that qualify. Next one, Nancy. Thank you. And then for this year, these are the list of roadways. After going through the list, we sat with DPW multiple times, and for their paving year and streets that qualify for bike facilities for this year that are being paved. So obviously we have Cove, First, and Fifth, all within that ADT range, Sharrows and signage. And Chestnut Street as well. Chestnut Street is a little up in the air, whether it be paved this year or early next year, depending on the completion of the Spinnaker building and some other sidewalk projects. And then we're also trying to take a look at Seaview as well. There's already Sharrows on the west approach from East Ave to 4 Point. And we're trying to extend that so we make that connection between 4 Point and then all the way into First Ave, Cove, and Fifth as well. So we kind of create that network around that curve there between Seaview and First Ave. So we're looking at those for potential bike lane, which maybe or Sharrows. We're working on that right now and coordinating with DPW as well.
Greg, what is ADT?
Average daily traffic.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, so that's the daily amount of vehicles that are on the roadway.
Yep, got it. Judd, you wanted to say something?
So, Greg, are you aware that on Seaview, heading east, there is a 5-foot bike lane?
Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes, my main looking is from Seaview going into First Avenue around the bend, and where the yacht club is. That's where things get a little dicey there. going
Yeah.
around the curve up to First Avenue. So yeah, Seaview Avenue as you know, most of it going east direction is fine, but then once you approach First Avenue is where it might get a little difficult.
So, you know, there's no bike lane indicators in that 5-foot bike lane. There was a previous person who was very opposed to putting them in there, but it is a 5-foot bike lane. You know, is that something, is there a reason we could not get that marked this year?
I can't see why not. I mean, I would have to, you know, obviously we're trying to push for it, and obviously that, you know, Steve last month in his presentation had talked about on Seaview doing a promenade along Vets Park and creating bike facilities there. But for the more short term, I think putting a bike lane on most of Seaview Avenue, you know, and striping that is doable.
Okay.
Obviously, we need to go through the necessary channels here.
Yeah, no, I've
done.
been doing this long enough. I understand.
Yep.
You know, some of the other things on the short-term list are like Lowndes in South Norwalk that connects Woodward to Quintard.
Yep.
That was paved, I think, last year. It got new sidewalks. It would be, you know, if we could get, we have a bike lane coming down Water Street. If we could put Sharrows up and over on Quintard and then over to Lowndes, you know, and these are all things, I don't want to take up a lot of time here, but
I mean, Judd, I know you had talked about meeting separately. We can definitely meet, you know, between now and next meeting. We can definitely meet separately and kind of meet. I'll have somebody from DPW with me as well.
Yep.
So that we can kind of go over these streets on an individual basis.
Yeah, that's
we
good.
don't take up too much time.
Yep.
So we can definitely facilitate that, and we can make you know, a little less you know, take up less time for Nancy.
Yep. No, that's what I want. I talked to Nancy about it, and I'll be in touch with you about some dates.
All right. Yeah, let me just double check. Obviously I want to have somebody from DPW with me as well.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Along for it. So, yeah.
Yep, I understand.
Yeah. Hey, Judd.
Yep.
Not to continue this too much further, but I would just say that we could probably punt Chestnut out a little bit in favor of another priority, because I think the construction on that street's going to be a few years out still at this point. So
Sure.
I'd rather see the money go somewhere else. And it's a narrow enough street where I don't think it's as critical to put those resources.
Well, yeah, and we'll hopefully, Colin, you can attend the you know, subcommittee meeting with Greg and DPW.
So we talked about this internally. So we're going to be talking to DPW. We talk to them pretty much every week, but we'll figure out some dates and then we'll get something on the calendar for everybody.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So
All right.
I mean, the presentation as a whole was just to show a criteria that we're going to look at for each roadway that comes on the bike plan.
Yeah, no, it's good. You know, that households without cars, that's a great piece of data to have.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank Greg for putting the presentation together and polishing it up in record time so that we could get it out in advance of the July 4th holiday. So thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, next is Barbara with events, probably uneventful events.
It's pretty uneventful, but in the spirit of spending money, we did buy a few things before the fiscal year ended. And Judy Archer is helping us get some quick start brochures in English and Spanish for biking. And we've redesigned and have bags coming for giveaways when we do have an event. They're awful cute. I wish I could have showed you one, but they're not going to be finished till probably tomorrow, certainly sometime this week.
Well, there's your report for next month.
I got something. But that's it for this month.
All right, thanks very much, Barbara. Jim, you have a brief report on the Norwalk River Valley Trail?
I heard brief in that comment. A number of you are going to be wondering who has stolen the real Jim Carter and who is the imposter here, because I'm going to offer a positive and encouraging update tonight. I'm so pleased to report that after 18 painful months and really in a broader context, really 10 long, grueling years, I can announce that we finally have a signed lease with the state and the feds for the missing link. So, so it is a brave new world. Many people to thank for that. And one in particular is a tip of the hat to Mike. And he was with us all along and has been the chief spear catcher for all of the issues that have come along with this. So thank you, Mike. So this now passes to the Public Works Commission tomorrow evening for its approval, and then on to City Council the following Tuesday. And the purpose of those meetings are really to authorize the release of the previously approved funding as it goes forward to the mayor. So we are really on the cusp. So with that, we would then go to bid late this summer, early fall, and if the weather's good, maybe even get into construction this year. So a very positive report, and I'm pleased for that.
Hey, Jim?
Yes.
Can you repeat it's the Public Works Commission tomorrow, 7/7, and then what was the other agency that needs to?
City Council the following Tuesday.
City Council.
So those are our 2 checkpoints before the final release. So we're looking good. We'll Walk, which of course is the section up beyond the DPW and Gristmill area. That's now in Wilton's hands with the character of the lease that we've signed with DOT. This now serves as a template for Wilton and really all the other towns. And so this should help expedite their approvals. And we're hopeful of getting that potentially out to bid this year as well. There's one point still for Norwalk on Will Walk, and that is about the access agreement, the maintenance agreement. Mike, do you have anything to update on where that stands?
No, I don't, Jim. I will check on it though.
So that's in discussion, and Will Walk also looks encouraging. I guess finally I'll wrap up since I am adhering to my brief comments on 40 Cross Street. We've also made progress there. The redevelopment agency, Brian at the redevelopment agency, has done the research on the property at 40 Cross Street. There were some questions. Did the right-of-way that we hold pass in perpetuity? We've confirmed that it does. And so the new owners have to honor their commitment. As perhaps you're aware, unfortunately, that commitment only grants us a 4-foot right-of-way. So we're going back to them with a 6-foot right-of-way. And we have, and we're really limited by parking in the river and some tight spots. So we want to make it wider than a sidewalk, but it can't be what we would really ultimately like to be. The funding is in place for that. The design work is out, and we're hopeful that we can tie this in to the missing link construction. But we still have a ways to go, but we're positive and progressing on that front as well. So with that, I'll turn it back to Nancy unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, pedestrian report. Brian has also resigned as the chair of the pedestrian committee, but hopefully we will soon have a chair or perhaps 2 co-chairs for that committee, and they are beginning to gear up. As you know, they were focusing on the schools, so there's some unknowns for the fall, to say the least, about what's going to happen with the schools. But they are continuing to move ahead, and hopefully we'll have some more details for you next month. Christine, you have anything for safety and education?
Thank you, everybody. So not much, because I reached out quite a few times to Parks and Rec to offer either an online class or something, but they must be busy, because I did not hear back. So that's all I have. I have nothing to report.
All righty. Well, that's not too surprising, but you know, one of these days, hopefully they'll free up and we'll be able to do some programming with them. Deborah, do you have anything for us on
Social media.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things. One is, if you are on Facebook, please do like the Norwalk Bike Walk Commission page. Secondly, if there are things you would like posted, you have a twofold option. One is to just post them yourself, or two is to send them my way for official posting. And I just want to say that there are a lot of, I know there are a lot of things that are on hold, but there are certainly a lot of opportunities during the pandemic to educate people on how to walk. People are out there walking like crazy. They're biking like crazy. They're a little scary because they don't know how to do it correctly. So rather than this being a downtime, I actually view it as a time of opportunity. So please do like the work-life page if you feel so inclined, and please do either post things or get them to me for posting. And just as a sidebar, we've been posting about 2 articles a week, but we would love to have more. So please do send them our way.
Thank you very much, Deborah.
Nancy, can I say one little thing along the lines of communication and all that, which I had mentioned before? If you have any blogs or anything that you want to write about, just let me know. We have engaged the Snyder Group to help us actually edit and write the blogs on different topics, and would love to get some more information, more of along the lines of related to biking and walking on the Norwalk Tomorrow site. So if you have something that you're interested in, and you don't have to write it, we'll do the heavy lifting for all of us. Just let me know. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. And actually, you'll see that come up in our strategic plan, which is our next topic. So let me share my screen again here. Let me minimize all you folks. Okay, there were 2 documents for the strategic plan committee attached to the agenda for tonight. The first was the very colorful strategic plan for the current year with how we're doing. And I will go through this relatively quickly, so if you do have any comments or questions, just interrupt me. Our first goal is around complete streets. 1.1.1 is on target. Because Greg is, I think, about to submit the plan, right, Greg, for Route 136?
Yeah, so we've already, so nothing new on the connectivity grant, but it's within working on field review right now with the state and getting the plan submitted up to the state right now. So
super.
Work
Okay.
in progress still.
Yeah. All right. Our second objective around complete streets was with the bike share, and as you know, that's not going to happen. So, not due to anything that we did or didn't do. That's sort of on eternal hold for the moment. Our second objective is around the master bike plan. And the two things that we were looking to do this year were around additional bike parking. Now that we have ordered the new bike racks, I think we will be able to start that up in the not too distant future. Our third goal is around the pedestrian plan. And again, due to the COVID virus, we're a little behind on both of those objectives. But as you will see in the proposed strategic plan for the coming year, we have the same objectives, and hopefully we'll be able to make some good progress. The fourth one is around the POCD. And we will be inviting Steve back again to talk a little bit about the POCD and specifically what things have been assigned to us. And again, due to the COVID-19 crisis, everybody is a little behind on implementing the POCD. Our fifth one is around our community events, and we were doing very well, again, until the COVID crisis hit, and then some of the events, that we normally piggyback on were not held, so we weren't able to do that. But we are optimistic for the coming year, and as Barbara said in her report, we have all kinds of goodies to pass out once those events start up again. Objective number 5, objective number 6 is around funding, and again, we were below target on that. We did apply for one grant, and we did not get it, but we never got around to applying for the second grant. So before I start to talk about what we're recommending for strategic plan for the coming fiscal year, does anybody have either any questions or comments on how we did on the recently passed fiscal year? Okay, if not, stop the share and start it again so I can bring up the next document, which is the proposed strategic plan for the coming year. And you'll notice that it looks very much like the strategic plan for the past year because there were a number of things that we did not complete. So under goal 1, again, we're hopefully really going to complete that east-west connection this fiscal year. Under the master bicycle plan, again, we did not accomplish either of our 2 goals for this year, so we're pushing them into the next fiscal year. And the same is true with the third goal. The 2 objectives there are carried over from this year. Goal number 4 is again the same as this year in 4.1, and 4.2, as I believe was told to this commission last month, that TMP does have money to update the 2012 transportation plan, and we will definitely be providing input into that. Goal number 5, again, is the 4 community outreach events, the website and social media, and in addition to 4 news releases in 5.3, we've added a 5.4. What Catherine was just talking about was to try to post a minimum of 1 article per quarter to the Norwalk Tomorrow website, which may be a little aggressive, but we'll see how we do. And then goal number 6 is the same as it has been for the last number of years. So does anybody have either any questions or comments about the proposal for this year?
I've got a comment.
Sure.
I think that updating social media monthly, I think we could do even much better than that. And in saying that, I'm also volunteering. I've mentioned this to Nancy before, but I am happy to head up a Twitter presence. Since I'm much more active on Twitter, I'm more familiar with it than on Facebook. I would be happy to work on that.
Okay, well, could you just coordinate with Deborah?
Yes.
And by the way, we are actually posting a probably on average about 2 times a week. So it's not
Twice a week.
monthly, it's actually 2 times a week.
That's even better.
Just as an aside, one of the things I've done with my business is you can actually link to Twitter automatically, so that anytime you post anything, it on Facebook, it goes automatically to Twitter. So I need to look into that, because that's a lazy way of tweeting.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully you and
I'll-
Tanner can connect and
Yep,
figure all that out.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Greg, did you have anything additional for your report in addition to your presentation?
No, with the presentation and the transit district stuff and the connectivity, all the other projects we were working on are still in progress, but no new updates for you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
And now for old business. Judd, let me see if I can display your 2 pictures here, which I forgot to queue up, but I have your email here. You want to talk about this one and then I'll display the other?
Sure. I just, our bike stair over on MLK, I think the general consensus is that the sign is okay, but not really that clear to people, even now that it's been lowered. And I found this sign on the web. It's from Miami-Dade Public Works, I think. And I thought it was very clear. Just wondering if we can get something like this to replace what we have there. And I think this question is to Mike Yosak.
Mike, you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, we could take a look at it.
Okay. I just thought it was very effective, very positive. And just as a side note, I noticed on this particular bike stair, the bike trough is actually retrofitted into an existing staircase. As an engineer, you might find that interesting. As a contractor, I thought it was very clever the way they adapted that to an existing staircase. It's all steel or aluminum. I don't know that we have another stair somewhere, but if we do, maybe this is something to consider in the future.
We'll take a look at this, Judd. I can't promise you when, but because we've got like about 1,000 things on our plate.
Yeah, no, I know. And, this obviously the signage is the most important part. And if you'd like me to contact Miami-Dade about the signage, just let me know. I'd be happy to do it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Judd. And Mike, thank you very much for having Amy lower the signs, because I did go by there a couple of weeks ago, and I think it is much more visible at the height that it's at now, especially the one that's down on MLK.
Yeah.
So thank you, and thank Amy.
No problem.
Okay, Tanner, I think you're next up on the high cost of bad sidewalks.
Yeah, actually, if possible, can I give one more piece of feedback on the goals?
Sure.
I was thinking a little more about social media and kind of on a higher level. I don't know what conversations have been had before I showed up about this, but it seems like social media is a great tool, but it's a means to an end. And I think that end, at least at some level, is growing the community, right? Finding people who want to ideally work on walking and biking in Norwalk, but at the very least who are interested in hearing about it and gathering those people in. So maybe to that end, a goal around like increasing the audience that we have. I just checked on the Facebook page. There's 130 people who follow the page, which is, you know, it's good, but I think that we could potentially have far more than that. I mean, the population of Norwalk is like 90,000. And I'm sure that there are lots of other people who are interested in what we do, and even more people perhaps that would be willing to volunteer in some capacity or another. I think they're out there, but I think that we should start a conversation about how we find them.
Well, we do also have a mailing list because at each event that we go to, we try to collect people's email addresses. And I believe we're up to, I haven't looked at it in a while, but somewhere around 130 folks there. So, and we do periodically send messages to them, not very often, but we often will send out if we're going to be at a particular, like if we were going to be at National Night Out, for example, we would send them an email and say, hey, we're going to be there with our giveaways and so forth. And that might be another avenue to take a look at and perhaps create an email that would invite some of them to become a little more active. So that's something else that you and Deborah may want to think about.
Yeah. In the short term, though, I think that I wonder if we could put a goal, an objective on the yearly set of objectives about maybe like a, you know, if we're at 130 right now, would it be so unreasonable to grow to 200 by the end of next year if it's something that we've decided to put some effort into?
In terms of our Facebook followers?
Either whether that's Facebook or the email list, or, you know, some other metric that measures the combination of both. But I think growing that audience could give us a lot more potential to do good in the community.
Yeah. Do you have any strategies for growing our Facebook followers? Because, you know, unless it's something we have some strategy for actually accomplishing, it's a little difficult, I think, to put it into our strategic plan. We do have a strategy for increasing our email list, which is anytime we go to events, we do solicit them, and anytime anybody emails the commission's Gmail address, I always ask them if they would like to join our mailing list.
Yes, sorry, you dropped out there for a second, but I caught the part about how you do have some strategy right now.
Well, no, my question is, do you have a strategy for increasing our number of followers on Facebook?
I mean, I have like brainstorming worthy ideas. I don't know if I have a shovel ready plan.
Well, maybe you and I can talk offline about that. How about that?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Nancy, if you want to include me on that, because I've done a lot of that for the parking authority and other places. We've done targeted blasts through Facebook. The price is very reasonable. So happy to talk to you all about that.
Okay.
And even on a smaller scale, like if we just checked in on that every meeting and then reminded just our committee here to invite friends to engage, because I'm sure we all have like-minded friends. But again, we can talk about more concrete ideas.
Okay.
Offline.
Great. Thanks. Okay, so now Tanner, you're going to talk about the high cost of bad roads.
Bad sidewalks, that is.
Pardon?
Yes, it's about sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sidewalks. Just
Yeah,
sounded like I said roads.
No worries. So I think Judd actually brought this to the committee's attention via the mailing list. But I want to talk about it because I think it's very relevant to the time. The article was posted, I think, in Bloomberg, and it talked about how sidewalks essentially are neglected all throughout America, especially as we're in the middle of a pandemic and more people are looking for space to get out and social distance, but still, you know, be able to move around outside. So I didn't want to talk about the article as much because you can all go read the article, but I wanted to start a conversation around what the sidewalks in Norwalk look like. Not that that conversation at all hasn't been started, but in particular, like, since I'm always thinking about data and how to make data-driven decisions, I started this conversation already in the mailing list with a few of you at least, and I was just kind of brainstorming how we might get better data about where the sidewalks are. Apparently, the city does not have a bird's eye view of where all the sidewalks are, and in particular, what the quality of all the sidewalks are. I think the last, one of the things I suggested in that thread on email was that we do some sort of survey, maybe even a volunteer-driven survey, to find where the worst sidewalks are. I think Kathy or somebody brought up the app that the city has already contracted and is live.
Is that the click and request or something?
Yeah, click and request.
It's click and fix, click and request, yes.
Yeah, so I downloaded it and I tried to use it. I found a sidewalk, or to be more specific, a walking path that was in dire need of repair. And I forget what the exact name of the path is, so I'm going to pull up a map here. But it's part of the trail that's supposed to go all the way around the harbor, and it's on the east side of the harbor, just north of the train tracks. Does anyone remember off the top of their head what that is called?
It's at the Harbor Loop Trail?
But
Yeah,
since I'm talking about the DPW section of the Harbor Loop Trail, I'm guessing. I mean, that's what's right next to the train tracks.
No, it's called the Norwalk River Esplanade, or at least on Google Maps, that's how it's labeled. It starts basically right at the walk bridge, or rather it ends right at the walk bridge. It starts on, what's that? On Pleasant Street, or maybe that's Smith Street, in East Norwalk. But it's kind of just a dead-end trail. It starts on Pleasant Street and then goes along the river.
Excuse me a minute,
It's
Tanner.
pretty nice. Sorry?
Is it possible to let Tanner share his screen so we can see what he's looking at?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great idea. Okay.
Thank you.
Hey,
Do you, no, where did it go?
Yes, that's the DPW trail, which will be a component of the Harbor Loop Trail.
So I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I can no longer see that window. Maybe you all can, but I cannot. Anyway, yeah, I can see a little thumbnail of it. Yeah, it goes right along the river. Anyway, my point is that right where that sidewalk, that walking trail, intersects with a city street, where people, basically the only place people could access it, it's entirely undergrown with roots, and it would be basically impossible, for example, to operate a wheelchair over that. It would be very inconvenient to try and walk a stroller over it. I was on a bike at the time, and it was inconvenient to ride my bike because it was that bumpy. Even people with limited mobility, who might walk with a cane or a walker, it would just be completely impassable. So I took a photo of it. I created a request on the, what's this app called again? Click and report?
Click and request?
Click and request. And yeah, I created a request within a couple of hours, I think. I'm trying to figure out how to pull up my requests here. Yeah, within just a few hours, it was, I guess, accepted, and the status was changed from received to in process. And then about a week passed, and then I got another notification saying the service request status had been changed from in process to closed. And that's all that happened. So I'm wondering what is supposed to happen, and is the way that it happened in my experience the way that it's designed to operate? It seemed pretty.
This is Catherine.
Climactic.
If you want to, I have no idea. The short answer to the last part of your comment is no. But if you don't mind sending me what you received, I can look into that. Because I don't remember seeing your request. It might have gone to DPW since it's an existing sidewalk. And just on another note, so if you can do that, Tanner, that'd be really helpful to do a little.
I can send you a screenshot.
Right, just, yeah, send that to my email. The other is, I don't know if you're aware that Public Works received over $2 million for sidewalk repair and curbs in their capital budget. So just wanted to let
That's
you know
fantastic.
that. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that, all of you know that.
I do remember that you linked me to a budget. I don't remember the numbers from that budget, so I'm not sure if the 2 million number is new or not.
I'll tell you what, just email me. I don't want to take up, I don't know what time it is, it's 7:15. Just email me the screenshot, whatever you have, and then I can email you back the link so you have that, okay?
Great.
Tanner, the other thing you can do, hang on just one minute, Judd.
Yep.
The other thing is you can either email customer service at norwalkct.org or call them up on the telephone at 854-2000 and give them the ticket number and they'll give you the full scoop-de-doop on it. But because I've had the same problem, it's very frustrating. The system they're using, I don't think is very good at getting back to the customer with any useful information. So I usually either email them or call them when I get the thing is closed and find out what really happened. Anyway, Judd.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I used it just last week for the bike lanes on County Street to get them sweeped. I was riding to work and there was a bunch of debris. I used the app I think I used it on Tuesday, maybe. By Friday at the latest, I got a response that it was closed, and I drove my car by it yesterday and they had swept it. So, and that's been my experience 3 or 4 times. So I get these, I send in a request and I get a response, it's received, and then some period later, yes, it's closed, but I agree, it's kind of vague. What does that mean? Is it closed? Have they done something? Most of the time, my experience is they've done something about it, but you have to go look.
Gotcha. Yeah, and to be frank, I have not yet gone and looked, but I will. Hopefully what happened is that they took care of it.
Yeah. But it's a great start, I think.
We can continue this conversation maybe over email again.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Tanner, but aside from using the app, what you were trying to kickstart a conversation more about the high cost of bad sidewalks, and I think we got on a bit of a tangent. So how do we regroup and either get a little bit of feedback on where this idea was headed, or move on to another topic?
Yeah, well, I mean, my original idea was that the city could make better decisions about where to invest the $2 million or whatever it was sidewalk budget, if the city had good data about where there are sidewalks, where there aren't sidewalks, where the sidewalks are currently bad or even unusable. I think you all understand the idea of a network effect. Basically, like if a sidewalk takes you to a street with no sidewalk, it's not near as useful. But when the sidewalk connects to a greater network of sidewalks, then it's going to be much more useful because people can actually use it to get from place to place. So, but given that the city only kind of has data that's piecemeal, I was wondering if we as a committee could spearhead a volunteer data gathering effort. And that's where the conversation led to the Click and Report app, because I kind of offered up the idea of, well, what if we found some third-party app that we could use to crowdsource this data? And Catherine said it already exists. We have this, so I wanted to try it out. Is that what you're getting at, Colin?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm kind of familiar with the high cost of bad sidewalks concept, and I've read a few articles on that in the past. And
yeah, maybe it would be good. Could you summarize kind of the more
Well, I think one of the biggest obstacles, that, at least financially and potentially with the click and request thing, I know Mike, one of the former commissioners, had this issue when we started to discuss sidewalks probably 2 years ago or so. There's, as I think that article mentions, one of the quirky things about this country and the reason for a lot of decrepit sidewalks is because the onus tends to be put on the property owner for maintenance of the sidewalk, as opposed to the municipality or the public as at large. And as a result, you're essentially telltaling on your neighbor, who then gets a fine and some sort of a lien against their property for not maintaining a sidewalk if they're found deficient. However, if the road deteriorates in front of their house, there's no fault. So we're encouraging, people having to take their cars everywhere, and school kids having to walk to school in atrocious conditions, and disabled veterans having to wheel their electric wheelchairs down streets in the middle of the street as opposed to on a sidewalk. So there's a lot of, there's a lot there to unpack, and it's hard to get there. And $2 million is a lot of money for sidewalks, but it still isn't going to recover all of Norwalk. And then we also have to worry about how financially sustainable it is, right?
What you mean,
maybe,
especially given the current legal system, or rather the incentive structure around repairing sidewalks?
Well, maybe the thing to do is see if Anthony Carr or one of his engineers could come to one of our meetings and talk about how they're planning on figuring out how to spend this $2 million, so that we would have a better understanding. And if there's some way that we could provide input to those decisions, then that may be a good stepping off point.
Yeah. The I guess one other thing I'd throw out there, this is way back quite a few years ago, is I wouldn't mind asking Greg if he could look to Hartford with a question as to whether or not the Strava Metro data that the state was buying is still available and up for grabs and analysis via GIS, because I know at one point we had been talking about trying to acquire that data, and that the limited and set to athletically inclined people that are training, it's still a publicly or privately available data set that's collecting from actual usage and can generate heat maps or information on what routes or streets are being used heavily by people that are running or walking or biking or whatever. And the couple sample maps that they sent us were very informative to that end.
I haven't seen anything, Colin. I haven't even seen any of those. So I mean, if you guys have something that you want to send to me, so I can give whoever if I have to reach out to somebody at DOT, I have a little bit more of an understanding. Because more than likely, they probably hit more main road areas. Not so much those secondary streets where sidewalks, where you guys are probably eyeing upgrades to sidewalks. So that kind of data may be difficult to get, but I mean, if you have some of that data you want to send along, I'll take a look at it and see what else we can get.
Yeah, Greg, Strava is one of those, it's a really large fitness tracker app for athletes. And so it's not, they're going to go wherever they go for running. It could be in the woods, it could be on sidewalks, but it definitely, they aggregate and anonymize their data. And at least last I knew, they sold it to organizations and municipalities as GIS trackable data for decisions like Tanner's talking about. So you can plan infrastructure based on where people are actually going. And, I think they release it on a quarterly basis, and you can see where you're getting, heat spots from intersections or routes that are taking a lot of traffic.
Yeah, to be clear, we're talking about two different kinds of data. I think they'd both be useful. What I brought up initially was data about the existing infrastructure and what condition it's in and where it is. But I think data about how people are using the existing infrastructure is also valuable. I think though the caveat about how Strava data, like where it comes from and the kind of data that it is, the kind of activities that are recorded and aren't recorded there is salient. I'm a Strava user. I use it to track a lot of my bike rides. And so it's going to be data of people who are generally very athletic, going on long bike rides or long runs. And, you know, if somebody just pops out to go to the store, to walk to the store, to bike to the store, they're not going to put that on Strava.
Yeah, well, I think Colin's point is at one point, ConnDOT did have a license to that data, and the question is, do they still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that-
if they do.
that
It's
was my
certainly
question.
worth getting for us. If it's,
Right. I mean, it may not be ideal, but it's better than what we got.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll try and
All right.
dig back through my email and see if I can send Greg the sample maps I had in the past, and I can see if the program is still active and send him a few links to so he can understand better what it is.
Okay, that'd be great.
I got one more thing for Tanner, just talking about the quantifying the infrastructure is I was involved with a walkability study that Jeff Speck did several years ago through our office, and I think he consulted with the city and gave a lecture at Stepping Stones, and he basically broke it into a letter grade, and I think there were 4 letter grades maybe for quality of facilities, and it was very, very simple and just, you know, a broad brush overview where it was like a D or an F was, you know, no facilities, a C was, you know, mediocre, a B was okay, and an A was, you know, really nice pedestrian environment, and there were shops and things to look at, or it was a good street. So maybe just trying to attack some of the key areas in town and do a colored overlay or something. You know, we could try and, or volunteers could try and do that if there's not a better way.
Yeah, we definitely, starting with a really small, easy scope is definitely the way to go. I like that idea.
Okay, well, thank you. And we have some things to follow up on, I think. And our last topic was some information cards, because a number of us have spoken this evening and have noticed that there are a lot more people out walking and biking, which is a good thing, but some of them are not really doing it in a very safe manner, which is a bad thing. And so there was a suggestion that we have some cards made up that we can hand out to people as we go through our lives that had some suggestions for how to bike and walk safely, and those were also included with the agenda at the very bottom. And thanks to Mike Yosak for making the suggestions. Oops, not that far down. And I hope you all have had a chance to read them over. The idea would be, I believe, to make 2 cards, one for, or 1 card with bicycling on one side and pedestrian tips on the other side. And it occurs to me we probably would want to put our website address as well as our Facebook address on, and probably our email address on the bottom of the card, so that if there were people that wanted to either contact us or keep up with what we're up to, they would have that information as well.
So Nancy, this is handed out to people that you see on the road, or what's the?
Yeah, it would, the idea would be we could all carry them with us. And as we saw people out either biking or walking, we could hand them out to people, and it would be a way, hopefully, of educating them about how to bike and walk more safely, as well as give a little boost to our presence.
That's a great idea. That's so much better than opening your window and shouting at them. Not that I do that.
I was leading a sound cyclist bicycle ride last week, and there was a woman with her dog on the side of the street we were riding on. So she was headed in the direction of traffic, although at the time we passed her, she was standing still. So I thought I would be helpful and say, you know, you really should be walking on the other side of the road facing traffic, to which she replied, I'm not walking, I'm standing. So I said, okay.
Nancy, I think that's actually, that brings up a good point, which is my first reaction when I see this is that I don't know that people will want us to tell them what to do.
Okay.
Personally, if I moved to a new city like Norwalk and somebody came up and handed me a card, I would be interested to know that that person is, you know, is a cyclist and maybe involved in cycling advocacy or walking advocacy, but I wouldn't want to be told, like, don't ride on the sidewalk. In particular, when it comes to not riding on the sidewalk, I think that is much more a function of people not having better facilities and much less a function of people thinking that it's okay to ride on the sidewalk. In other words, I don't think we're going to move the needle by telling people what to do. I think we're going to move the needle by building bike lanes.
Okay. Does anybody else have a comment?
I think it's a great idea.
I'd like you to. Nancy, so Tanner was just talking about telling people what to do. I know things work when there's an incentive. And remember we had the discussion with the police department, and we gave them the suggestion about giving the kids a coupon for a free ice cream if they had a helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish we could do that. And there are more people out there, and I would like to, you know, participate in this goal here. But what about putting this in the bike shop too, and also in Spanish too? I mean, I think it's great. I think it's great, but it depends where we put it and how maybe the train station, the libraries, public places. But I would like to get the police involved, you know, and have, you know, people change your behavior when there's incentives.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how we would orchestrate that.
So I love the idea of spreading it around. And just as an aside, it was so interesting when Nancy and I were presenting on bicycle safety and walking safety at the gym teachers in service, and how many of them just didn't have the basic information. You know, they all claimed that this was different than the bicycling safety was different than what they had been taught. And I don't think it is different, but I think they have not remembered it correctly. So, you know, I think also it's a function of how you share it. And I think by having information cards as opposed to rolling down your window and telling people they're doing it wrong, I think it's a great idea. And I think having it spread around town is a really great idea.
Yeah, I agree with Deb, and I think we should put something on there that says, don't walk with your back to traffic wearing earbuds. No, I mean, really, that's the most unbelievable thing.
It is amazing. It is totally amazing.
Yeah, or put something on there that says, if there's no sidewalk, you know, don't walk with your back to traffic wearing earbuds.
Well, I think number 3 and number 4 already addressed that.
Yeah, I don't think it's obvious enough.
Okay.
For that one condition of people walking with their back to traffic with earbuds on.
And it's so funny because people are always looking over their shoulder. That should be their first clue that what they're doing is dangerous. Because if they were walking against the traffic, they wouldn't have to look over their shoulder.
I don't see them looking over their shoulder. I just see them walking with their back to traffic.
Well, the ones with the earbuds don't look over their shoulders because they don't hear anything coming.
Right.
So
all right, I'll tell you what, let
bliss.
me see if I can find a printer to talk with about, you know, what size these cards would be and how we would set them up, and maybe next month or the month after come with a mock-up of what it would look like, and go from there.
That's great.
So, other than making the no earbuds and a little more prominent, if any of you have any other suggestions on the wording, if you could get them to me, I will modify the text and then see what it would take to get them actually printed up.
Great, thank you.
And, you know, Teresa, we're still on, we probably could use the health department to help us distribute them as well, but I obviously can't commit to them doing that.
And Mike, thank you for getting us started on this and finding the initial information. It's great.
You're welcome. No problem.
Yep.
Alrighty, unless there's anything else we need to talk about, would somebody like to move to adjourn?
I already moved.
Okay, Judd, a second.
Second.
Thank you, Colin. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you all very much.
Thank you
and
so much, Nancy.
we only ran 5 minutes over and we had a pretty full agenda, so I think we did a good job tonight.
Absolutely.
And
Take care.
yeah, and thank you to the coordinator from the city for taking care of all the technical stuff.
And yeah,
No
thank you
problem.
to the staff. For
Have a good
working
evening,
late.
all.
Yep, take care.
Have a
Good
good
night,
night.
everybody.
Bye.